All right, so in this week's guitar lesson, we're going to talk about how to fit in with other people, or actually how to fit into a song. That's probably a better way to say this. And this is one of those scenarios that you need to understand when you're contributing music, when you're in a jam session, jamming with other people, or if you're recording and laying down a track. You need to have the ability to listen to what's already there and then contribute a part that's meaningful, that's not stepping on somebody else's toes, not getting in the way. And this is one of those topics I don't think gets talked about enough. So much of the content that we put out, when it comes to learning how to improvise or learning how to play an instrument, is how to do a specific thing, how to play a scale, how to play an arpeggio, how to, do a technique or something. But you have to also develop your ear and learn how to kind of fit in. And so that's what this lesson's all about. I'm just going to talk through a scenario. There's a million that we could do. We could do a whole course on this, but we're going to talk through a scenario. We're going to take the jam track that I played in the intro, talk that through, and we'll talk that through in this video. Now, if you'd like to get the extra materials, the MP3 jam track, the tablature, and also the on-screen tab viewer, which is interactive, you can get all those extra pieces so that you can practice everything we're going to talk about by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP510. Okay, so the first thing I want to just mention is the key of the song. So this song is in the key of E. We're going to listen to it here again in just a minute. But the first four chords that we're going to focus on are an E, an E7, and then it goes to the 4 chord, which is an A, and then we go to the minor 4, which is an A minor. So we have an E, E7, A, and A minor. Those are the first 4 chords that happen. It happens very slowly, but I want you to listen to this. So I'm going to play the jam track without my guitar part in it. Just listen to what all is going on. There's a rhythm guitar, there's a piano rhythm, there's a lead part that we can't step on, so there's a little organ lead part. There's a lot going on. So try and ask yourself, what would you do? How would you contribute to that? So let's listen to that first. All right, so now let's listen to the first thing that I played on top of that. Okay, so here's what that first phrase sounds like on its own. It goes like this. All right, now what's going on there is I'm playing harmonized sixth. Now remember, I said the song's in the key of E. So I was thinking about, I wanted to do a little harmony thing there. And what I like about a harmony like this is it's just 2 notes. It's not 3 notes, like a 3-note chord. It's a little 2-note harmony. It's not really technically a chord, I guess, but that seems to be less cluttered sounding than if I'd played a 3-note chord. And it allows me to move around the fretboard a little more fluidly or smoothly, like that. And so we're playing in the key of E. So these harmonies are coming out of the major scale. It's just the major scale starting on that E note, because that's the key of the song, the E major scale. And I'm playing a harmonized 6. Now, I'll put a lesson up on the screen that talks in detail about harmonized 6 if you want to get a little more information on that. But essentially, all that means is I'm playing 2 notes that are within the major scale, but they're 6 intervals apart. If you think of the major scale as a train line, and each note in the major scale as being a stop on that train line, there's 6 stops in between the first note and the second note. So the harmonized 6 that I was targeting was this. And that comes from my E chord using the C shape, just strings 2 and 4. That's another way to think about it. It's just coming out of that chord shape. Connect these things back to where they live in chords. That makes it a lot easier to find them. But I started with. So this would be like the second step in the major scale, the third step in the major scale, right? But it's just harmonized. And you can see that the pattern sort of shifts. So that first one I showed you looks like this, where there's, they're each on their own fret. When we come up to here, they're both in the same fret. On the 7th fret, same thing on the 9th fret, strings 2 and 4. So I started then with a slide from the 7th fret up to the 9th fret, back to the 7th fret, and then down to the starting point, which is my E note, my harmonized E note there. So that would be string 4 and then 2. I think I staggered it when I played them. All right, so now at this point in the song, the next chord that happens, remember the first one's an E, then it goes to an E7. And so to mirror that E7 sound, this is a tip, little takeaway that you can walk away with if you're really into this harmonized 6 thing. If you find the harmonized 6, which is your root, so this is my E note, so I think of that as sort of my home bass note there, home bass harmony. You can always go down 2 frets this way, and you're playing a harmonized 7th version of that. So this would be like, so this is like your flat 7, the note from your E major scale. If you go up to your 7th interval, it would be this note, but your flat 7 would be this note. It's the same note that would be in your E7 chord, your E dominant 7 chord. So you have, there's your E, go down 2 frets, you can hear that E7 sound. Contrast it with that E in the bass. You can hear how it sounds like I'm playing an E7 chord. And I use that all the time if I'm doing these little harmonies. If I want that 7 sound, I just go down 2 frets from my root harmony. Okay, so then the song goes to the A chord, and I played this. And came down here. So I'm still at that E7. I walked it back up 2 frets, back to that E7, and then down to here where I've got strings 2 and 4 on the 2nd fret. And that would be like 2 notes from your A chord using the A shape. You can think of it that way. So we have, let's listen to that. All right, so now that you understand what those harmonies are, let's listen to when they happen. That's actually probably more important than what they are. And notice that I'm listening for the lead part. In most leads, whether it be a lead vocal or a lead guitar, lead organ, like in this case, most leads have breaks, just like you take a breath. A little phrase, the musician stops to get their next idea, and then they move into the next phrase. Well, you're waiting for those phrases to kind of work in your little ideas. That's what I do. It's almost like a call and response kind of approach. They're playing the call and then I do a response of some kind. So that little phrase came in when there was a lull in between the phrasing of the lead. All right, so now the song goes to that A minor chord, and I just played, since I was already down here, I just played my A minor chord, the one you already know, and just played it like that. Just picked the notes right out of the chord. Nothing clever there, but it didn't need any more than that. You know, the lead had already was dictating sort of what was going on, and then the rest of the instruments were there. So arpeggiating the chord like that seemed like the right thing to do. Now, this is where the song goes back to the E chord. And what I played was just play the E, all 6 strings, but I did an upstroke. You get a different effect if you play an upstroke. That seems like a minor point, like, okay, big deal. Well, it actually is kind of a big deal. You hear that in a lot of songs, especially if you're trying to get a, like, I don't even know how to describe it, like a majestic sound or something. You get a whole different vibe if you do an upstroke versus a downstroke. I always think of Pink Floyd and think of that chord, you know, I don't want to say it because of copyright, but you know what I'm saying. It's a whole different vibe if you do an upstroke versus a downstroke. It's a simple little idea, but anyway. All right, so there's 3 more chords we're going to talk about for this last little part of the song. It goes up to the 2 chord, which is your 2 major. And typically your 2 would be a minor chord, but you can make it major. That happens a lot. So it goes up to an F sharp major, and then it goes to the minor 4 chord, which is an A minor, and then we go back to the 1 chord, which is our E. I love the sound of that. And remember that minor 4 chord, that's something that I use all the time. Some of you are probably sick of hearing me do it. I just love the sound of it. I can't get enough of it. It sounds somewhere between, like, I don't know, it's kind of a sad kind of vibe. I don't know, that's just something that attracts my ear. But from that major 2 to the minor 4 chord, it sounds very Beatlesy. And then back to the 1. It just sounds so cool. So if you're looking for an idea, and you're trying to figure out how to get back to the 1, think of, instead of playing your 5 chord, try your minor 4 chord. It's a cool sound. All right, so what did I play over those 3 chords? Well, I came in at the same time as the chords, but played this. Now that seems like it might be complicated. Like, wow, how would you come up with that? It's so incredibly simple. It's just the triads of the chords. So that first chord was an F sharp, right? F sharp major. So I came up and played a triad here, which would be like an F sharp 7. So it looks like the same shape as your D7 shape that you learn in first position. But if you play it up here, you're playing an F sharp 7. So I did that shape for the F sharp. Then I played strings 1, 2, and 3, just a bar there on the 5th fret for my A minor. I was thinking about my A minor chord here, just that little triad of it. And then my E chord using the D shape. So that's all that was. But the way that I played it was I hybrid picked. So I played strings 3 and 1 at the same time. So I picked on the 3rd string, plucked with my ring finger on the 1st string, like that. And then I played the 2nd string, did the same technique, 1 and 3, 2nd string, and then strings 1 and 3 again, and then that 2nd string. And so that's how I kind of wrapped up that first phrase. And it was playing the same notes as what was going on there. It didn't need a lead, it didn't need anything else really, but I wanted to play a part that kind of fit into that. So it's hard to sort of explain this stuff because there are no right answers with it. You just have to kind of experiment a little bit. But the more of it you do and the more little phrases and ideas that you pick up from videos like this, you know, they stick with you and you'll find yourself kind of using them in the future. It makes you sound a lot more professional if you hold back as opposed to always having to be heard, always trying to do something that, you know, catches somebody's attention. That can really be the sign of an amateur musician. So then the song goes to the 5 chord, which is a B7, and I just walked up, opened, 1st fret, 2nd fret with my middle finger so that I can play my B7 like this. And when I played that, I just noticed when I listened back to it, I really pulled my hand back and played closer to the bridge to get that, I don't know, just to dig into it a little bit. I like playing with the different tones that you get depending on where you pick. That's another idea that a lot of you know, but maybe some of you hadn't thought about. Depending on where you pick, you can get a whole different vibe. If you want it to sting a little bit, you just kind of move your hand back. Okay, so this next phrase is major pentatonic scale. Good old major pentatonic scale. Really nothing clever going on there. But there was a little break where the lead player wasn't playing something, and so I snuck in a little lick there. And what I'm thinking about, actually, this is a great major pentatonic lick. Just to walk away with this lick, I mean, this is one of those things, if you learn nothing else, you got to steal this one because you'll find yourself using this a lot. I hear this in country, blues, everything. But think about it as it relates to your E chord in first position. And in particular, look at where your middle finger is on that 2nd fret, 5th string. Start there, but use your ring finger and slide up to here. And then come to your 2nd fret, 4th string with your index finger. And then we're going to do that same shape. So think of that 5th string to the 4th string like that. We're going to do that same shape up here. So now we're going to slide up to the 6th fret on the 4th string and then hit the 4th fret 3rd string with our index finger. So it looks like a little box, and then you move the box up. So, and then we come up to here, 6th fret 3rd string, and then 5th fret 2nd string. We come all the way up to our E note. This would be like E major pentatonic scale pattern 4. So I'm sticking to that call and response kind of vibe. So the keyboard solo takes another little phrase, and then I wait for the break in that and throw in a little minor pentatonic scale. A real simple little lick here, but I thought it kind of fit. Now we're kind of dialing in the blues a little bit. Remember, I can dial in whatever sound I want. And if I wanted to sound less bluesy, I could stick to that major pentatonic vibe. Like, that's different than... So this would be pattern 4, the same kind of shape now, but pattern 4, the minor pentatonic scale. You can see how I just totally bluesed it up by doing that. So we're sliding up here to the 9th fret 3rd string with your middle finger, and then we come up to the 2nd string and go 8, 10. So, and then little bends, series of bends there. It's all happening on that 2nd string. All right, so again, waiting for my turn, waiting for my little spot to play another phrase, a response to the keyboard. That's what we're going to be doing here. Now, this is just major pentatonic scale as well, with the exception of one note. So it's major pentatonic scale pattern 5. That's what that looks like if you're looking at the entire pattern. But I slid up to the 9th fret 2nd string, and then we go 7, 9 on the 1st string. But then this note, now notice that sounds very bluesy. That's because I went back into that pattern 4 of the minor pentatonic scale, just for that one note though, and pushed it a little bit sharp. And then back down here to this 3rd string and go 9, 6, 9. So all together, it's a great little phrase, and it seemed like the right response to that keyboard solo, because the keyboard solo was getting a little bit bluesy, so I'm kind of doing the same. I'm kind of copying there. All right, so it's time for my next response to the keyboard part, and I played another little blues thing. That's coming right out of the pentatonics. Again, this would be like somewhere between pattern 3 and pattern 4, depending on how you look at those. But it's basically a little box shape between the 9th fret and the 7th fret, 4th string to the 3rd string. And then you slide back down here, and you have the same little spacing. And this time I'd be going between the 7th fret and the 5th fret. So 7, 5, 7 on the 5th string. That's a great little lick. I love little simple licks like this. Like I remember spending many, many hours just going back and forth between these little boxes like that. They mesmerize me. They still do after all these years. All right, so now the song goes back to the E chord, and I walked it back up to here. That's that same harmony that we started with, right? 4th string, and then the 2nd string, and there are 2 notes out of that E chord using the C shape. And then the song goes up to the F sharp, remember? So I went from here, slid that up 2 frets, and then put my pinky down, I use my pinky, you could use your ring finger, but on the 9th fret 3rd string, that's the flat 7. So I was thinking about that F sharp chord there using the C7 shape. So, and then I came down to this 5th fret 2nd string, 7th fret 4th string, and that represents my A minor. Think of the two notes, the strings 2 and 4 out of your A minor chord. And then back to where we started. The last lick goes over that 5 chord, and I played. So that's just minor pentatonic scale down in 1st position. 3rd fret 2nd string. And then down to the 2nd fret 3rd string. Back to your open B string, sliding up to the 4th fret 3rd string to match that note. It's just a minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1 up to pattern 2. And then you can loop the whole thing. All right, so just remember, it's one thing to learn the notes and learn the licks and the techniques. It's a whole different thing to learn when to use them. Now, notice I didn't count anything. I didn't count this in because it's not an exact science like this. This isn't meant to be thought of in that way. You instead of thinking about when do I come in, I think that's the wrong way to look at it. You need to be listening to what's going on and let that be your answer as to when you can come in. You'll find little spots, even with a busy song like this, with a lot going on, you'll find little pockets. It's okay to overlap a little bit. That's actually kind of nice. You just don't want to do a lot of it. What you're playing doesn't always have to be completely unique with nothing else going on. It's going to be hard to find in a song, but try and find your little pockets where you can contribute without getting in the way and actually adding to the music. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. We'll see you next week for something new. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, I would encourage you to do that. And also check out Active Melody, where you can get the extra materials for this lesson and then 12 years worth of in-depth lessons just like this one. All right, we'll see you next week.